Well, good afternoon. Trips into Cumbria, never very easy, and certainly the weather on the way up here has been absolutely appalling. Wind, rain, hail, snow, you name it, we've had it. But that's it, the players are on the field now, and the teams quickly for this afternoon. Keith, the fullback, is Phil Ball. The three-quarters, John Basilou, Wayne Reyes, Carlton Farrell and Andy Stevenson. At half-backs, Keith Dixon in for the injured Andy Ayres, with Darren Appleby, and in the forwards, Greg Hiley, Jason Ramshaw, Joe Grimmer, Ian Gately, Mark Ripcowden and Martin Wood. The substitutes for Keith were Paul Moses and Steve Hall. And for the Workington club, full-back is Mark Mulligan, three-quarters Gary Smith, Tony Kay, Paul Kenrice and Paul Bond, with Darren Carter and Dean Marwood the half-backs, and the forwards James Pickering, Martin Oglenby, Peter Riley, Ian Scott, Colin Armstrong and Brad Heppel. Substitutes for Workington are Paul Rooney and Gary Schubert. The men to watch this afternoon, certainly as far as Keithley are concerned, on that Workington Town side, the danger men in the three-quarters, Tony Kay, the scrum half Dean Marwood, he's the leading goal scorer in the league at the moment, so 11 or 12 in front of Keithley's John Basilou. And in the forwards, we're looking at Brad Heppel, the loose forward. Interesting as well that in this lineup, Darren Carter signed recently from the National League side, Barrow Island, and Martin Oglenby, he was a 1990 South Pacific tourist with Keithley's, with one of the Keithley players. But in the middle of the field now, we've got the two captains together. They're just being told by referee Mr. Kershaw just what he expects as far as the high tackles are concerned and the laying on at the tackle. He said quite definitely, at least by his demonstrations, that he's not going to take any of it. And the toss then has taken place. It's Keithley who've won the toss. They've opted to play with this very, very strong wind to the backs. The wind, in fact, coming from the top left-hand corner of your picture as we look at it. So it will be the full-back Mark Mulligan for Workington Town to get this game underway. Mr. Kershaw just checking with his two judges that they're all ready. And away we go. Deep kick then into the Keithley territory, into the 20-metre area line. That's Keith Dixon, picks the ball up and really gets rid of that as though it was a hot potato. Mark Ripcowden, I don't think particularly expecting or relishing the opportunity of that at the moment. Oglenby just putting that ball through with his boot. Phil Ball it was who rescued the ball over his own line, makes a good 15 metres before being tackled, and the tackle count starts from there, or in fact it would have been starting there from there had the Workington player not been laying on in the tackle. Just what we were saying there then, that Mr. Kershaw indicated to the two captains that he wasn't going to have any of it, and immediately the first tackle, that's precisely what happened. It was penalised accordingly. So that Keith Dixon penalty, the tap being restart being taken by Jason Ramshaw on the halfway line. And we're just inside the Workington Town territory now. Appleby then across to Grimmer. Grimmer takes a few more steps into that half of Workington Town, and it's Ramshaw again at action half. Appleby's pushing the ball out to Wood. Wood looked as though he's going to offload out there to Ian Gately, but decided perhaps the better option was to have taken the tackle. And here comes another kick. It's a high kick, it's a good kick, it's holding up strangely in the wind. It splits the fullback and the wingman. Fullback Mark Mulligan hesitating there and paying the penalty quite severely there, being tackled over his own line by Keith Dixon, following up that superb inch-perfect kick. And so we've now got a very early drop out from underneath those Workington posts, but Keith Dixon in fact very intelligently using the wind there to the best advantage that Keithley could have hoped for. Appleby then just takes that ball on the full, looks for the gap between Oglenby and Scott, and it's Ramshaw then onto Gately. Gately charging in, he's coming in then some 15 or 20 metres from that Workington Town line. Ramshaw puts the ball out to Dixon. Dixon onto Hiley, does a bit of juggling there, but nonetheless manages to hang on to the ball. Ramshaw now looking to see what options are available to him. Appleby running across the face of play. It's Martin Wood almost getting through the gap there was Martin Wood. Less than 10 metres from the line. Ramshaw goes, there's an opening there, but it's actually gone over to Gately, and it's Carlton Farrell, in fact, it's gone in at the corner for Keithley. I thought there that Jason Ramshaw was going to accept that option. There was a hole appeared in the defence for him, but in fact he saw the better opportunity outside him. It was Gately that put the ball out there, and Carlton Farrell squeezed in at the corner, and he's absolutely delighted. 2.5 minutes on the clock then, as that try came, and what a super start for Carlton Farrell. I was speaking to him yesterday in training back down at Cougars Classic, and he was saying that as far as he was concerned, this was an exceptionally big game for him. He was intent on keeping the Workington centre Tony Kay out of the picture and playing him off the park. Well, they lined up against each other in spite of wearing the same numbers, and one's got to ask, where was Tony Kay on that occasion? Carlton Farrell knew where he was in at the corner. John Basilou then just having a little bit of problems with that ball, not standing up in the wind. One of the few goal kickers in the league who refuses to use sand, prefers the old tested and tried methods. Just going to have another try at this, but away goes the ball again, and it's Keith Dixon coming up to do the honours and just hold that ball in the upright position. Mr. Kershaw there just telling Keith Dixon what he requires of him, but Keith Dixon, a goal kicker himself, he knows exactly what's required. John Basilou then taking the customary time and care over this attempted conversion. Well, he's got the height, he's got the length, but the direction not helped at all by the wind. So then 4 points to 0. The score is Workington come back to the halfway line. This one it's Mulligan to restart. That ball going into almost the same position as the previous kick-off. Dixon again offloading to Carlton Farrell, the try scorer. 20 metres out from that keeper line, almost in the middle of the park, and Ramshaw puts the ball back then for that boot of Dixon to torpedo the ball downfield, takes it some 25 metres from that Workington line, and that's hard work for Workington. Keithley taking full advantage of this very strong wind at the backs, and that in fact is what the game's all about. Keep the defence, the Workington defence under pressure, and that ball against the head is a super push there from the Keithley forwards. Gives Darren Appleby the opportunity of setting up another attack. Dixon's operating the signals behind his back. It's Joe Grimm this time coming in. Grimmer under a pile of players there as Ramshaw gets the ball. Suspicion of forward pass there to Ian Gaker. There goes the flopper that Mr. Kershaw not interested in Ian Scott's third man in as Jason Ramshaw drives for the line. Inches short, he was tackled there. And this is Gately moving the ball out now to Appleby. Appleby going back straight in, but it's the last one there from Mr. Kershaw as Ramshaw gets the ball out. Dixon a little chip through, and this time the Workington fullback not found wanting, takes the ball quite safely over his own line and gets a good 10 metres out before being tackled. This is James Pickering, the Kiwi number 8 for Workington. Doing a spell of driving out, plays the ball to himself, he's no marker present. Joe Grimmer there, doing the tackling back, assisting his colleagues, Mark Calvin and Jason Ramshaw to fetch Pickering down. Oh, that's a pathetic attempt of an offload to a player that just wasn't there. Certainly never looked where that ball was going. As Kay then plays the ball, gets the ball back, eventually to Mulligan, the ball holding in the wind. John Basilou almost misjudging it. I don't really understand why the ball can't be taken in the full. So many players these days prefer to allow that ball to bounce Well, this is full ball, making good, valuable yards into that Workington Town half of the field. Appleby across to Martin Wood. Martin Wood offers the ability to Dixon, but decides to go on his own. Out to the left-hand side, he's skipping and dancing is Martin Wood. Gets within sight of that try line once more of Workington Town. His gaping, looks to offload. Again decides to drive the ball in. That's the 10-metre line right in front of us. As Ramshaw then looks for the drop goal, but that's not going to go anywhere near the post. But the idea was right. Never in your opposition's 20-metre line without area rather, without coming away from point. Points is the old adage. Armstrong doing the initial driving out there. This is Peter Riley with the headgear. Pickering again, taking up the drive for Workington. Hoping to see that halfway line eventually Workington Town. This is Brad Hepper. He's one of the danger men of this Workington side. Certainly not getting anywhere that time. There's the halfway line then that's just been crossed by Peter Riley. But he gets 10 metres inside the keeper out before being tackled by Ian Gately. Pump downfield. Well taken there by Andy Stevenson. Driving the ball infield, taking his time over it, allows his defence to get back in position. Probably then acting half onto Wayne Race. He's going to drive the ball in this time. Picks two of the biggest lads on the field to go out there, and Peter Riley and Colin Armstrong. But not particularly bothering Wayne, isn't that? Ball once more joining the line of Keithley as they attempt to get back towards that halfway line. Ramshaw onto Grimmer. Grimmer offloads there out to Mark Brookhout, onto Ramshaw, out there to throw ball on Carlton Farrell, just not able to hang on to that ball. Nothing wrong with the pass, nothing wrong with it at all. If anything, I think that's Carlton slightly overrun the ball. And so we now go to a scrum. Remember the first scrum taken against the head by Keithley, and that's a big push again, and a heel back by Keithley. That's the second scrum, and both against the head. Carlton Farrell driving in, head to head there by Tony Kay. Martin Wood cheats to his left. Suspicion of a little punch there from Brad Hector going unnoticed from the referee as Greg Hyler looks left and then right. Unable to offload, takes the tackle. Gately then in the acting half position. Dixon unable to hang on to that down after the pass. Possibly a little bit harsh there by Mr. Kershaw, but he was in a better position than we are to judge that particular attempt to take that ball as to whether it went back or forward. But that ball out to the Workington Town side this time, and ironic cheers from the crowd, recognising the fact that they managed to get with the head. It's Paul Kenrice, the Workington in the floor, gets up and plays the ball. Ian Scott this time, taking his turn at driving into the halfway line. That will be up to Armstrong. That will be once more. This is Peter Riley doing the driving. Mulligan then gets the ball high in the air, hoping it's going to hang in the wing, but badly misjudging that one. The weight of the kick too strong for even this almost gale force wind. Here's Keithley, a tap restart then on the 20-metre line. This Joe Brewer drives the ball in. Greg Hyler this time having a spell it on to Carlton Farrell again. He takes on his opposite number Tony Kay and knocks him off as though he's a fly on the wall. Appleby onto Gately. Gately taken up high there, but again Mr. Kershaw not interested in that arm of Oglamby's that went certainly all round Ian Gately's neck. Joe Grimmer this time taking them on in the centre of the field. Offloads very well to Appleby. Onto Hyler, high out to Carlton Farrell. He steps inside, but well met there by number 8, James Pickering. Elliott acting half back on. Well, looked as though he was going to pass out there, but decides to drive the ball in. He's 9 metres from that Workington Town line again. Now then, 12.5 minutes on the clock as Keeper launched another attack, but Keith Dixon just putting the ball down there again. Half taking his eye off that ball and looking to the man Colin Armstrong who was coming at him. It was the last tackle, the handover, but there Keeper in fact penalised, being offside. Suspect it was more not standing square acting down. Plan as the marker, and that ball put into touch from 30 metres out from the line. Not too much yardage gain, but certainly the security of the touchline foul. It was a big hit there by Martin Wood on Peter Riley. Gets into the key for half of the field and score, but can escape the clutches of Greg Harley. Again, Ogilvy through the hands of Marwood to Penrise. Nice tackle. Gets up, hangs onto the shirt there of Wayne Race. Just a little bit of finger and tech covered in between these two players. Certainly with the two number 5s there in the action as Andy Stevenson takes his opposite number bomb into touch, so we've got a scrum down some 30 metres out from the keeper line. Mr. Kershaw just holding up the clock while we await the arrival of Pickering. Oh, that ball, I never saw the scrum at all. Mr. Kershaw, though not interested, as Stevenson drives the ball in, but he's been driven back towards his own goal line. Dixon just delayed that pass slightly as a look for the man coming. It's Wayne Race who got it. There's the ball. It's Ramshaw going on his own this time, looking for the gaps in the Workington defence. Didn't appear on this occasion, though, as Appleby then throws the ball back to the boot of Dixon to send that ball way downtown on the wing. Is it going to get inside the corner flag? It certainly is, but it's the wrong side as far as keeper is concerned. But again, a lot of pressure back on that Workington Town side as they're forced back now to take the restart on the 20-metre line. They've got 6 tackles to get in a respectable position again as far as the attack's concerned. And keeper have got 6 to keep them down here in this half. And there's 2 of them used up as Armstrong feels the weight of Ian Gately's tackle. And it's Happy now taking the ball up the short side. Looks for the support, but there's only one Gary Smith there, and he certainly didn't appear interested in taking the ball. Just breaking into the keeper half there is Ian Scott. And it looks in fact as though Keeper penalised there for hanging on in the tackle. Keith Dixon, the man, according to the touch judge anyway, giving assistance to Mr. Kershaw. Mr. Turgos, I beg your pardon, it wasn't, it's Mr. Lofthouse, the touch judge on that side. Getting to referee Kershaw. Keith Dixon was doing the holding down. So then that's Marwood, puts the ball safely into touch for Workington, 30 metres out from the keeper line as number 10, Peter Riley, getting through a fair amount of work with the drives in these early stages. Be appealing to the referee that people are holding the man down in the tackle. Certainly at the moment anyway, not too much going as far as Workington concerned. This looks a bit better go down that side as Tony Kay skips away from the first tackle, but he's pushed into touch there by Phil Ball. Just about to say there that Workington operating almost one-man rugby, and then the ball moved down to Tony Kay from Mulligan. He almost broke through down that touchline side, but it was Phil Ball who was the man finally putting him into touch. So 10 metres in from the keeper line, scrum goes down, but the referee not happy. One of the Workington front rows refusing to go down. He's still standing up and he's coming back again, and so that's Mr. Kershaw penalising Workington for not packing down correctly. And certainly it looked as though it was James Pickering, the open side prop, refusing to get down. No doubt he'll be pleading that Greg Harder wasn't allowing him to get down, but Mr. Kershaw saw it differently. And so keeper then coming forward in the shape of Appleby now onto Gaker, charging into those defensive forwards of Workington. Margaret Cowden hits the halfway line before being dragged back a couple of metres. I'm sure again looking for the options. It's Joe Grimmer. Oh, and there's a trip there by Ken Rice. In fact, it was. Joe Grimmer slaps him across the face, but there was a definite trip there by Ken Rice. The boot came out. It tripped Joe Grimmer. I'm sure he's extremely annoyed with Joe Grimmer about that. He's marked the man's number. He knows who's done it, but I think Mr. Kershaw certainly missed the original reason probably why Joe Grimmer retaliated there. And Johnny Kershaw just giving Grimmer a lecture. He's also warning one of the Workington players, no doubt it was Ken Rice, but no signal given by the referee there as to why he did in fact give the penalty. We can only assume it was from a slap across the face, and it was no more than a slap. Very dangerous play there by Ken Rice in the first place. It's Oglandy now then. Oh, and that's a bad attempted pick-up, and the ball spilled by Paul Bond. He wasn't expecting to take it, Joe Grimmer. Oh, and there's Ken Rice flying in again. Well, certainly something's fired this fella up in the last couple of minutes or so, and he's lying all over Grimmer. And that's a penalty back to keeper this time. Use of the elbow this time to Mr. Kershaw. Just inside the Workington half then as Dixon puts the ball into touch some 30 metres out. And it's still throws the ball in field to Ramshaw, then Ramshaw gets the ball into Appleby onto Harley House. A lovely ball there from Dixon to Martin Wood. Martin Wood steps inside the fullback as though he wasn't there, and that's a splendid try for Keeper. But what a lovely ball that was from Keith Dixon as that ball sped across the field. He just delayed it slightly, put Martin Wood in the gap, and he made absolute mincemeat of Mark Mulligan as he sidestepped in to go right underneath the post for the second try, exactly halfway through this first half. 8 points to 0 in the score, and we're looking now for Keeper double figures. But no matter whereabouts on the field, these conversions or penalties have to be taken. This man in the picture now takes the utmost of care, and that's why he's got so many goals this season. Currently lying third in the table, behind Dean Marwood, the Workington scrum half, and that man from Wigan, Frano Bottiger. Side from Basil then Surfer converts that try and takes people into double figures. 10 points to 0 on the score at this time. Mulligan then again, restarting straight back down there to Dixon. And on to Carlton Barrel, the same exactly as the previous kick-off. Ramshaw back then once more for Dixon to put this ball deep back into Workington Town territory, and that's a splendid touch finder. Some 10 or a dozen metres out, certainly where the ball crossed the line. In fact, the referee or the touch judge rather giving just a few more and taking it onto the 10-metre line. And it really must be disheartening for the defence to find themselves back within 10 metres of their own line, and all that work to do to get back upfield again. Marwood feeds that scrum, and a big push again from Keefer. Jogging, it could be adjudged to be offside there, having broken from the scrum before the ball went beyond the second row. So that's a pressure relieving penalty then, as Marwood places the ball on the ground for this kick, not confident in being able to get any distance out of his hands in the face of this Gale Force win. And again, Keithley caught offside there, not retiring the required 10 metres to the touch ridge's flags. And so Workington find themselves almost back in the Keithley half again, thanks to a couple of offside decisions there by the referee. One at the scrum of course and one at the tackle restart. Ogilvy then on to Pickering, he drives in. Good 10-metre gain there, and by Pickering as Ogilvy waits once more at acting half. This is the other prop Riley. Again. This time it's Colin Armstrong in the second row, gets to within sight of the Keithley goals. Some 8 to 9 metres from the Keithley line as Ogilvy moves the ball across, but Pickering opts to come back into the centre. With the receiver and on to Heppy. Heppy gets the ball out there to Mulligan, but Mulligan and Ken Rice getting in each other's way there, and the ball being spilled. Well, that was certainly looked to me as though the ball was spilled, but it must have been a very quick one, and it's Keith Dixon takes the ball, but he's driven back over his own line, so we're going to drop out from underneath those Keithley posts, but Keithley withstanding the pressure. Certainly looked to me though, in fact, there as though that ball had been dropped. Mr. Kershaw, the referee, in A1 position there to judge that. He was facing the play as Dixon then puts the ball deep into the Workington half of the field, and he's Paul Bond the job of running the ball out again and making as many yards as he possibly can. Gets into the Keithley half as Marwood tries to go on his own from acting half, but he can't escape the clutches of Joe Grimmer, and it's Ogilvy once more then. Armstrong just settling it down, I think is probably the polite way of putting it, as Mulligan gets Heppy into the action again. Heppy on to Ken Rice. Ken Rice well wrapped up there by Stevenson. And Riley again catches one there as he ducked to go underneath the tackle. He caught an elbow, I think, possibly from Ian Gately. Purely accidental. He was half tackled and going down as Ian Gately also came into the tackle the man. I certainly don't think I wouldn't have thought we'd have seen too much from this, but in fact the touch with Mr. Turgoose, in fact it's not a game Mr. Turgoose, it's still that man Lofthouse who's coming from the far side of the field to advise Mr. Kershaw, who in fact was right on top of the action as to what happened. I don't think for the first instance perhaps Mr. Kershaw was going to do anything about it, but in fact it does now look as though it's going to be a penalty to Workington Town. Decidedly groggy there. Whiff of the smelling salts.
The substitution for Keithley, number 15, Steve Hall, 2 minutes, number 13, Martin Wood.
Martin Wood then just taking rest on the bench, and it's Steve Hall who takes his place for Keithley. And in fact, not opting to go for a couple of points there. I would have thought certainly would have seen a couple of points attempted there by Workington to get themselves on the board and at least give them something to say that to have further efforts in this first half. But Ogilvy then out to Carter. Carter gets the ball on then, and it's spilled. First knock on will count there. Joe Grimmer not able to hang on to it, but it was I think Colin Armstrong who spilled the pass in the first instance. Mr. Kershaw just telling two packs to stay apart until he tells them to go down, and this is Phil Stevens again driving in, gets away from the first attempted tackle. Very good yardage gain by Andy Stevenson. This is Steve Hall, gets his first touch. Ramshaw then onto Mark Ripcowden. Mark Ripcowden operates down that far side of the field. And Ramshaw again at 2.5. Looked a bit forward there to Greg Hiley as Darren Appleby receives the ball back and gets to the halfway line. Not so, says Mr. Kershaw's Keith Dixon just tries to chip that ball over the top, but misjudges the weight of the kick with the wind. But nonetheless does a good job following up and makes sure that Mark Mulligan, the Workington fullback, doesn't get any further. But Happy and Carter then gets the ball into Scott. Tackled almost as soon as he receives the ball there by Gately, Hiley and Hall. A bit of juggling there by Marwood, one of his own men getting in his way. Prevents him getting into any sort of forward momentum before being tackled by Dixon. And Ogilvy then again to Pickering. Pickering hits the halfway line, gets into the opposition territory. Oh, well, that ball iffy there, but certainly Workington refused to accept the opportunity of the advantage given by the referee for what may easily have been adjudged to have been forward as the ball was juggled through one pair of hands to the receiver. Appleby then feeds a scrum out to Keithley. Dixon again a little bit suspicious forward pass there to Phil Ball, but Mr. Kershaw on the spot and not interested. All driving back, getting well, good yards again before being able to be brought down. And it's Ramshaw looking for the runner wasn't there, or certainly didn't want to play, and well, I would have thought that would have been a penalty. Certainly Ramshaw knocked down as he attempted to play the ball, but Darren Appleby just showing the ball as he goes through there, getting tackled, and in fact being held down in the tackle. Mr. Kershaw this time saying he's having none of it. He's penalising Workington, and John Baslow indicating to the referee that he'd like to have an attempt at goal. Almost 30 minutes on the clock in his first half then as John Baslow aims to make it around, doesn't. Carefully wipes his hands on his shirt and a couple of steps to the right. Gets the ball high towards those posts, but it's missing the right-hand upright there, so it's no goal, but we've the ball obviously going dead with the strength of the wind. You can see from the corner flag there, the wind swirling again, and if anything, if that corner flag's to be believed, it's coming from that corner is the wind. I can assure you from where we are though, where the wind's coming from, and certainly where it's going to, and it isn't from that corner flag. Keith Dixon then plays the ball with his boot as Steve Hall brought on 10 metres or so inside the opposition territory before being brought down, and it's Ramshaw then onto Dixon and Gately, a charging run there from Ian Gately. Knocked down again as he gets up, and Ramshaw punches the ball out to Hiley. Hiley steps inside, prevented to get any further by the two second rows as Ramshaw again gets the ball inside to Dixon, onto Appleby. Appleby looks to the 20-metre line, looks to offload at the same time. Certainly the centre of operations this afternoon is Appleby as Ramshaw gets the ball back to that man once more. 10-14 metres as Ramshaw gets the ball, looks for the drop goal. It's there, says Mr. Kershaw. And that's 11 points to nil. 32 minutes on the clock. Jason Ramshaw. Had a successful attempt at the drop goal that time. His original attempt, if you remember, being a bit of a flag, but the referee just stopping the clock at the moment, wants the ball, but there's one there behind him.
Latest scores are Carlisle 16, Rochdale 12,
Mulligan once more gets the play underway. Phil Ball this time, I beg your pardon, Steve Hall this time at the end of it. How we can mistake Phil Ball for Steve Hall, I just don't know, but there we are, we did. That's Phil Ball though this time. Catches an elbow from Brad Heppy for his troubles. Ball back to Dixon, he steps inside Heppy, still manages to get his kick in downfield, splits the fullback and the winger, and again it's another superb touch finder for Keithley from that man Dixon's boot. 10 metres again from the Workington line, and how well Keithley have pushed back this Workington side in this first half. 11 points to 0 then as that ball goes into the scrum, out Workington's side. Stand-off Darren Carter, not able to have much effect, certainly in the attack in this first half, any more than this man Marwood has been. Been completely outplayed at the moment anyway by the two halfbacks of Keithley and Oglenby. Taking the ball in, Steve Hall acting the half, and the marker, I beg your pardon. This is Tony Kay. He too not had much joy against that man Carlton Farrell. And again it's Farrell who does the tackling on his opposite number. Halfway line there by Pickering, all Workington Town. 6 or 7 minutes to half time as the ball goes back, and it's Mulligan being allowed to run there before in fact getting the kick in, but Phil Ball retrieving that one after it went through his hands on the first attempt. Mulligan following up, but unable to affect the initial tackle. It was Gary Smith who stopped goal, and Vasilou running the ball himself from the acting half-back position. Ramshaw onto Joe Grimmer. Grimmer hits a wall of Workington defenders there, unable to go any further. Referee telling the players to get back the 10 metres, and it's Greg Hiley catches one round the top there from Pickering. Mr Kershaw uninterested, but the touch judge of the far side certainly interested in it. And it beats me quite honestly how, when a referee is so close to the action as Mr Kershaw was then, he has to rely on the touch judge. But no doubt he decided in fact that those first two tacklers weren't going to allow Hiley to go any further. He was going back looking for the 10 metre marking line. Certainly something very difficult that the referees have got to contend with this new rule, is getting back to the line and also watching for late things happening in the tackle. I think probably we can excuse Mr Kershaw in this instance. Inside the Workington half, Ramshaw just holds his arms apart there to say that he hadn't intended to play that ball as Steve Hall drives in. Ramshaw once more offers the ball and gives it to Ian Gately, drives the ball in. It's Ramshaw again at acting halfback, pointing and asking and calling the shots for Keithley as the ball goes outside to Appleby. Oh, and a bit of shepherding there as Appleby delayed that pass. A bit of shepherding with Margaret Cowden. Always very difficult when you're using a man on the foil there like Margaret Cowden was, just getting a little bit too close to the man with the ball and taking out the Workington defender who arguably could have made a tackle. Marwood once more putting the ball on the ground, not trusting his hands to kick the ball from. Then finds touch some 10 metres inside the Workington half. James Pickering gets to the halfway line, but no further thanks to the attempts of Joe Grimmer and Steve Hall. And that's Peter Riley. Certainly man started this half with the headgear on, he hasn't got it on at the moment. Armstrong just running straight into the keeper defence, and Ogilvie now has to go on his own. Looks in fact as though Ian Gately caught one there as Steve Hall went in. He caught the full weight of Steve Hall in that tackle as he assisted Gately. Margaret Cowden then Ball eventually going to Greg Hiley, gets good yards again before being tackled. Certainly the running forwards of Keithley are gaining yards every time they get this ball. Workington Town defence almost appearing to stand off the Keithley forwards and allowing them to run. And certainly this man's caused some problems this afternoon, and there he goes again, he's through the gap, he's looking for it, there's no one in support, but it's the last tackle now. Steve Hall's at acting half-back, that's not his normal position, and it's Ramshaw again with the attempt at the drop goal, and it went through the post, but Mr Kershaw indicating there that it touched the Workington hand as it went through, so we've now got then a drop out from those Workington try line. Paul Moses then coming on the field now for Ian Gately. The big fella feeling the full weight, as I said, from that assist in the tackle from Steve Hall. I'm sure Ian Gately won't appreciate the assist. Drop out then, led by the boots with Wayne Race, skipping in field, handing off the players as he goes his race. Doing extremely well there, and dumped by Ogden being unceremonious fashion. And there's Moses going from acting half-back on his own. Keith Dixon this time in the acting half position as Joe Grimmer drives for the line. Another opportunity then now for Keithley to add points to the tally in this first half. Darren Appleby finding his way close as he went in field, has to go back out again. It's Moses acting half-back once more. Here's Steve Hall, he's driving for the line, is Steve Hall, pushing aside. In fact, he's in there, is Steve Hall. He knocked a couple of Workington Town defenders away there, in fact, as though they just didn't exist. It looked, in fact, as though it was James Picking and Darren Carter to stand off, but that's Steve Hall's first try of the season, and in fact, only the second try since he joined the club. He'll be very pleased about that. And that takes the scoreline then now to 15 points to 0 in Keithley's favour. They've had a strongish wind behind them all this half, but I don't think anybody in the wildest dreams would have expected them to have reached the Workington try line on 3 occasions in this first half, when in fact Workington have got the best defence in the entire rugby league. But certainly the way in which Keithley have penetrated that defence this afternoon, it certainly doesn't give credence to the best defensive record in the league. One has to add, of course, that Keithley's defence is the 3rd best in the league. And that is the entire rugby league, 1st and 2nd division, as well as this extremely competitive 3rd division. John Basilou then still having problems keeping this ball in the right position for his conversion. It's once more Keith Dixon called up. Into stoppage time as John Basilou then attempts the conversion. The touch, you just say it's through, and it's 17 points to 0 in Keithley's favour. And that's not the happiest of situations for Workington to go into the dressing rooms at half-time, but what a splendid feeling there'll be in the Keithley camp as they very shortly take their 10-minute break. 17 points to 0 then, highs in the first half coming from Carlton Farrell in the 3rd minute. A brilliant try by Martin Wood as Keith Dixon giving the pass that split the defence. That was on 20 minutes, and then we've just seen Steve Hall barge his way over in the last minute of this first half. That's the man, that's Steve Hall, looking to get back to the halfway line, and looks up and smiles at those big forwards that just put him down. Moses then onto Ramshaw, gets into the half, and Brad Happy rather, he's still got his arm round the neck of Jason Ramshaw when the referee came up and told him why he'd penalise him. So then, deep in injury, or rather stoppage time, John Basilou's going to have another go at goal to try to increase the tally in this first half. It's very ambitious, it's just inside the Workington half of the field. and this wind swirling down at pitch level. Not very helpful for goal kicking. Sets the ball up. Let's hope it stays upright this time. Carefully measures his run back. He's not happy with it though. He's just asking the referee if he can readjust. Customary wipe of the boot on the right sock and the 2 steps to the right hand side. He's certainly got the height, but again the direction's not quite there and it doesn't go dead this time. Riley the man doing the running out and Heppy taking it straight from acting half-back. Right, but Cowden stands over Heppy in the tackle there. Pickering this time. 10 metres inside the Workington half of the field as Riley goes for the halfway line, but there goes the half-time hooter then. That's the end of the first 40 minutes. A very, very satisfactory one as far as Keighley are concerned, and the players take a well-earned rest in the dressing room, looking for consistency and continuity of that effort from Keighley in the second half. And we'll be back in a moment or two. Keighley retake the field. They no doubt had all their instructions in the dressing room from coaching staff of Peter Roney and Fairhurst. They'll know exactly what the task is in this second half, and certainly they've got the difficult position of 40 minutes against a still very, very strong wind, and I think we can possibly see a tremendous amount of kicking, this time of course coming from the boots of Dean Marwood and Mark Mulligan, the Workington scrum half and fullback, hoping to press Keighley back onto their own try line and make them work hard as Keighley made Workington work hard in the first half. Keith Dixon it is then to restart. Referee Kershaw once more checking with his touch judges and the timekeeper. The left boot of Dixon then using the wind as best he possibly can. That's Schubert, the number 15 for Workington Town. Both the substitutes are on for Workington. Paul Rooney at 14. Just gone out of the picture there. Not particularly sure who's gone off. Haven't heard it on the PA system. We'll have to look to see if we can discover who it is that's left the field. And the ball going back there for the anticipated kick, but Keighley well up there, making the Workington man have to readjust his position, but nonetheless Marwood finds touch some 20 metres out from the Workington line, and the Workington fans now trying to get behind their side. They're not happy that they're trailing by 17 points to nil in this at the end of the first half. And if anything, just giving their players a little bit of the bird as they left the field at half-time. Appleby then feeds a scrum, but referee not satisfied that that ball went incorrectly. The entire front row of Workington standing up. It looks in fact as though Peter Riley, one of the players who have gone off. And well, difficult there to say who was being penalised, apart from the fact the way in which the players lined themselves up, because Mr Kershaw, I thought, was going to penalise Workington for the entire front row refusing to go down, but in fact he penalised Keighley for going down and not letting the Workington players go down, and that's a head-high tackle on Steve Hall after Workington spilled the ball. And really Workington can't afford to make mistakes of that calibre, and certainly shouldn't be giving penalties away either. Frustration already coming into those Workington players. That was obvious from the way in which that tackle went in on Steve Hall. They spilled the ball, and Keighley are given the pressure relieving penalty. Ramshaw on to Hiley. Hiley driving in, well met there by Schubert. The replacement, as I said, for Peter Riley, we believe. Steve Hall driving in. He was replacement in the first half, you remember, for Martin Wood, the earlier try scorer, and Steve Hall celebrating his entry into the field of play with a try himself, as Phil Ball gets tackled right on the halfway line. Ramshaw going to the short side, and the ball being put down there. Dean Marwood very quick to pick it up, but good tackling back there, covering back by Keith Dixon on the scrum half. Bond bringing the ball in field. Workington in a very good position now to set some points up as the ball goes out to Heppy. Heppy's got Kay outside him. Kay wrapped up again very well this time by Wayne Race and Darren Appleby. Heppy gets the ball inside to Schubert. Schubert drives for the Keighley post. Oglenby acting halfback. Ball slowly, almost slow motion, moving out to via Marwood over to the far side there, and that looked a forward pass. Referee agrees with us. The pass to Ken Rice decidedly forward, even from the angle that we're looking at. Mr. Kershaw right on the spot, so we've got a scrum down 10 metres out from the Keighley line. The Keighley to put the ball in. Referee not satisfied there that scrum was correctly formed. Appleby gets it in, it's out to Keighley. Heppy breaks. 12 metres still from that Keighley line as Steve Hall attempts to get away, but it's Brad Heppy again. Ramshaw onto Race. Race ducks under the tackles, almost gets away from the despairing clutches there of Darren Carter, the Workington standoff. Still moving upfield, in fact. The ball going straight into touch there. John Vasilo unable to take that pass. So we've got a scrum down which will form just inside the Keighley half of the field. It's Workington's turn to put the ball in. It's their turn for the loose head. Ball coming out. Steve Hall breaking quickly from the back of the scrum there. Carter just having to readjust there, and Kay dancing on the spot. Not really getting anywhere at all. He's double tackle there by Brooke Cowden and Steve Hall doing the assistance. Schubert looks to offload, but again not able to release the ball. The two Keighley props this time doing the business. This is Rooney. Rooney stepping inside outside the first tackle, but Keith Dixon and Joe Grimmer making sure he doesn't go any further. Carter then on that ball. Nothing particularly wrong with the pass from Carter to Armstrong, but Armstrong gave it away and Keith said thank you very much. Steve Hall making his weight felt there as he gets into the Workington half of the field. Ramshaw onto Appleby. Appleby out there to Race. Race going down the touchline side, but not able to get into his stride. Gets up, plays the ball. Andy Stevenson going on his own, acting half. Gets away from a couple of players there before being eventually brought down by James Pickering. And it's Ramshaw once more then. Grimmer offloads there. It hits the Workington Town arm as he attempted to get that ball away, and it's Colin Armstrong for Workington. Recovers a position as far as they're concerned. Ken Rice going on his own again, kicking in the tackle, or struggling in the tackle I should say. Schubert gets into the Keighley half. Keighley, if anything, just standing off slightly there, allowing him to run, something which they didn't do in the first half as Pickering then gets tackled. Some 15 metres or so inside the Keighley half of the field as Oglenby gets the ball out to Armstrong. He releases it, but it's Ian Gately there intercepting that ball, And a little bit of a suspicion of a tackle in the prohibitive area there by Schubert, going unpunished by referee Kershaw. The touch judge on this side telling the players to release the man, so Dixon it is who eventually gets the ball moving for Keighley into the hands of Greg Hiley, just a metre inside the Keighley half. Workington very slow to get up there as Appleby gets into the opposite half of the field again. Half splits the defence as Rooney it was who prevented him going forward. Brooke Cowden this time offloads to Gately. Gately looking to see where the play is, and it's Ramshaw in support. He's got play out this side. It's on to Carlton Farrell. Carlton Farrell's driving in field, but he's wrapped up some 5 or 6 metres from that Workington try line. Appleby acting half-back, gets the ball in field, this time to Dixon, chips the ball through. All sorts of trouble there could have been on for Workington had that man Rooney not been there to sweep up after the ball hit the fullback's boot. And Heppy doing well to get the ball away there. Wayne Race tackling back. Oh, and there's a couple of punches going in there from Ken Rice, apart from the head going in initially. Ken Rice gets up, plays the ball, and there's all hell let loose there. Wayne Race certainly having a go at Ken Rice, and quite honestly, after you've been hit twice in the head, by the head, and then in between the legs where nobody should hit anybody, Wayne Race is fused blue. And what on earth Darren Carter was doing in there, goodness only knows. But certainly the instigator of that response from Wayne Race was without any shadow of a doubt number 4 Paul Ken Rice. Wayne Race had tackled him, he was underneath was Race, and Ken Rice nutted him twice, if that's the right way of putting it, and then thumped him between the legs twice. Hardly surprising it got a response from Race. Normally a very, very quiet and docile player, always in control of his temper, and one cannot, well, I don't believe that. It would appear, certainly from the actions, that Mr. Kershaw sent him off, and it's got to be on the advice as well of the touch judge, Mr. Turgoose, and he's now turning to Carter. Carter's there with him. Is he going to get the same treatment? I doubt it, because he's fiddling in his pocket, and that's probably a 10-minute job. But where on earth is Paul Ken Rice? If Turgoose, the touch judge, came on to advise the referee, why on earth didn't he see what Ken Rice, the number 4 for Workington, did in the first place? That man, the instigator of those two players, one off for good, one in the sin bin, has got away completely scot-free. And we saw the actions of Ken Rice in the first half when he attempted to trip Joe Grimmer early on, and also when he used the elbow on Grimmer, and certainly acted, well, with an air of irresponsibility to say the least. And the man's got away scot-free. Now Mr. Kershaw's got a job on his hands in these next few minutes to keep these two sides quiet, and he's going to do that obviously with penalties. He's going to keep them apart. He's penalised Keeper there for being offside in the centre of the field. Now surely we're going to see an attempt by Marwood this time to put some points on the board. He refused the opportunity in the first half when they were trailing 17-0. Just before half-time, I beg your pardon, when they were trailing 11-0. And my words, that ball's gone down on the spot very, very quickly. Marwood's certainly back to the mark. Doesn't take the same preparation time as John Vasilou. And my words, doesn't it show? Well, that's from the leading goal scorer in the league. He mustn't have had much pressure on him at all in any of the previous kicks of his 99 that he's taken successfully. That's what he's on. He's successfully converted 99 goals. That would have been his 100th, and if he's addressed the others with such casual approach, well, it makes you wonder how he managed 99 in the first place. That's Rooney then, takes the ball from the dropout, gets back to the halfway line before being tackled, and Oglenby brings on Pickering. Pickering almost drops that ball. It's back to Rooney to do the sweeping up for Workington. And Workington's so casual in the approach that it's almost unbelievable. Kay gets up, plays the ball to Oglenby. Oglenby out to Marwood, on to Mulligan, the fullback, brings on Heppy, running out wide. Heppy's doing everything he can to get away from these Keighley tacklers, but it's the two halfbacks that stop him on that occasion. And this is Armstrong for Workington. A little chip through there and the chase. Both Phil Ball and Andy Stevenson there in the defensive position, and Phil Ball doing extremely well. Swaps hands there as he uses his right hands to fend off the would-be tacklers. Carlton Farrell feigns to go to his left, takes the ball wisely away from his own post. Certainly if anything's going to break down there, and a try was going to come from a breakdown, it was going to be wide out. Carlton Farrell dictating precisely where the player was going to be, and we've now got a penalty for a tackle, I think, by the number 9 Oglenby, according to Mr. Kershaw in the throat. Mr. Kershaw certainly got a unique array of signals, not particularly in line with those as dictated by the Rugby League, but nonetheless not particularly having a bad game this afternoon, keeping on top of things, although the decision, I must say, with Wayne Race was rather harsh to say the very least, considering what went on prior to it. Steve Hall then tightly hanging on to that ball in the tackle as Ian Gately comes on now. Darren Appleby again taking up the top end of the body, not in the head but certainly high. The Workington players like to go high, as Dixon then inside to Grimmer. Grimmer strides through those defensive attempts at bringing him down, and it's Rooney and fullback Mulligan eventually does only 4 or 5 yards from the line as Ramshaw tries to burrow his way through there. The ball, was it knocked out? The referee says so. It's a scrum down then, as in fact the referee doesn't say it was knocked out, because had it been knocked out, of course it would have been a penalty. It's Jason Ramshaw judged to have lost the ball in the tackle, so it's Marwood then will put this ball in, and he'll be hoping that his defence can get the ball well away from their danger area. Mulligan making the first move, and this is Oglenby, gets the ball out to that man Ken Rice on the far side. Schubert's gone into touch. The touch judge's flag was in the air long before, in fact, he managed to release that ball in field to winger Paul Bond. Good tackling, good covering there by Keighley. Just over quarter, or just about quarter of an hour gone then in this second half, as Keighley feed that ball 10 metres inside as Appleby splits the defence once more. He's going, Appleby, it's the ball out to this wingman, to John Vassalou. He's a clear run to the line, he salutes the crowd before he goes over and punches the air in great joy. What a brilliant break there by Darren Appleby from the base of the scrum. He absolutely tore that defence apart, and I really do think that the cover there from number 6 Darren Carter leaving a lot to be desired as far as Workington were concerned, but you've got to give credit to Darren Appleby for the way in which he spotted the half gap, went through it, split the defence apart, and this man Vassalou backing up extremely well, and a lovely time, well weighted pass out to the wing. Saw John Vassalou tearing at the corner, taking the score then to 21 points to 0. Vassalou then has got the very difficult task of converting his own try here. He's about 10 metres in from the touchline side. He's taken the ball back, but he's going to be kicking this almost straight into the wind. That wind's still coming from that touchline corner at the top left-hand side of the field as we view it from here. Again, still that meticulous care. It's up. Oh, and it just shaves that left hand upright. not making enough allowance for the wind. In fact, I think if anything that ball never deviated from its original course. But nonetheless, a very, very satisfying position as far as Keighley are concerned, leading Workington Town by 21 points to 0. And remember, down to 12 men. 17 minutes or thereabouts on the clock. A juggling act, well recovered there over his own try line by fullback Phil Ball. An exceptionally good yardage gained as well, in spite of the hesitation which stopped his ability to go forward from behind his own post. More yardage, good yardage gained there by Andy Stevenson. Certainly having a good game this afternoon is this wingman for Keighley, as is that man number 11, Mark Brook-Cowden. He's been in the thick of the action, done some good tackling, a lot of tackling, and certainly he's done a lot of good bursting runs for Keighley, taking the weight off his fellow forwards. Steve Hall gets up and plays the ball to Dixon. Dixon fires the ball back out to Appleby, going down the touchline side, but Ken Rice this time wraps him up. Appleby just shakes his head there as he probably caught one as Dixon puts that ball up, but it's been held in the wind, being kicked all over the place. In fact, eventually recovered by Workington. That's Kay there onto Rooney from the acting half position, but he gets no further than being stopped, I think initially by Greg Hiley and finished off by Ian Gately. Armstrong, good strong run there from Armstrong, gets back to the halfway line once more before being stopped by Hall and Hiley. And Pickering again getting the ball out. Tony Kay at long last able to get the ball out, but only as far as winger Gary Smith, who's immediately wrapped up on this near touchline side. Mulligan gets the ball across, almost flat pass there, could have been forward, but that was rather a silly pass by Schubert with the man already in attendance on Paul Rooney, and Mulligan pumping that ball in the air, but it goes directly into touch. So we come all the way back from the point of the ball going into touch. It was the last tackle, and so we've got a handover just some 7 or 8 metres from the halfway line. Greg Hiley, the man to get play underway again, as Steve Hall drives for the halfway line. Ramshaw waits patiently at acting half as Appleby now onto Gately, run round back to Appleby, misses out the man. That's the one that was brought back for Shepherding in the first half. Was it Shepherding again, or was in fact it forward? We shall see. It's a penalty, so obviously Mr. Kershaw deciding that again the obstruction taking place, so that's Workington then now back in deep into Keighley territory as Schubert drives in. But certainly a very lethargic run there by Schubert. This man Rooney attempting to barge off the original tackle, in fact succeeds to get away from the tackle of Jason Ramshaw. Oglenby waits at acting half, gets the ball on again. This time it's Armstrong looking for that Keighley line. He's 2 metres short, that's all. Keighley defence hurriedly getting back into position as Mulligan joins the line, steps back inside, and the gate, which was almost open there, was closed. Ironically, it was Gately who closed it. As Marwood now offers the dummy, it's Kay gets away from the tackle, but again the Keighley defence is up to it. It's the last one coming up, says Mr. Kershaw. Marwood chips it through, taken there by the Keighley defence over the line. It looks like it's Keith Dixon who was in the sweeper position. It was but Phil Ball it is now then, quietening things down for Keighley, allowing them to reorganise in the defence. And that's another one round the top area, I believe. It is Greg Hiley just staying down there, eating up valuable seconds. As Rich Coons comes on just to have a quick look at him. Greg Hiley there just responding to the catcalls from the crowd. inviting them, I suspect, to look at the scoreboard, and Harley drives in once more. Ramshaw again, acting half-back, Steve Hall driving that ball in. It takes 3 players every time to stop the big fella before he gets brought down. There's a lot of weight moving forward when he gets into motion, and there's a lot of strength behind that weight as well. Mark Brook-Cowden then plays that ball, it's out to Dixon, on to Gately, and another one, a flying arm there I think from Pickering. Mr. Kershaw agrees with us. James Pickering obviously deciding that Ian Gately is causing him enough trouble and he needs to slow him down because he can't catch him. Perhaps thinking that the punch may have done that, but Mr. Kershaw right on station to see what had happened. Ian Gately shakes his head and gets back up again. Here he is, but he just spills that one, unfortunately. Perhaps under the circumstances shouldn't have been there, having just had a crack around the head. But he knew the position he was supposed to be in for that drive. And so we've got a scrum down then, some 20 metres or thereabouts from the Workington Town line. Being driven back there by the Keighley tacklers, Mark Brook-Cowden and Keith Dixon, pushing Darren Carter back as though he was a feather. This is Brad Heppin. Looked to get the ball out, but Martin Wood back on the field. Went for the interception, unfortunately couldn't hang on to it. And in fact, Keithley penalised there for being offside, not retiring at the scrum. At least that's the signal he gave. I suspect it was probably for the loose forward breaking before the ball had come beyond the second row, but nonetheless that's a very, very bad kick indeed by Marwood. Not using his brain at all there. He's kicking with the wind blowing across field. I would have thought he'd have been looking to this near touchline side. And taking full advantage of the wind. As it is, it's yet another in the catalogue of errors of this Workington Town side this afternoon. And Keighley having, I have to say, capitalised on almost every one of those errors. Brook-Cowden waits at acting half-back as Jason Ramshaw readjusts the headgear. And it's Appleby again, putting Greg Hiley into the hole that time. That's the 5th tackle. The last one comes up. Mr. Kershaw's arms in the air as Keith Dixon chips the ball through. It hit a Workington Town player, I believe. We'll see whether the touch judge agrees. Indeed he does. Certainly catching the boot of the Workington player on the way through. So that's Keithley then got the opportunity now to launch another attack on the Workington line. The scrum will form some 10 metres short of the line as Appleby feeds. Out the back to Keithley then. Keith Dixon looks for the man running. The runner wasn't there because in fact I suspect he was still in the scrum. Phil Ball it is who's had to join the line to form the extra man as Ramshaw then gets the ball onto Gately. He's driving towards those posts, some 7 or 8 yards short as Ramshaw waits. The ball goes out to the right hand side. Appleby onto Mark Brook-Cowden. Held up in the tackle some 3 or 4 yards short as Ramshaw again gets the ball out to Martin Wood. He's in at the corner, but the referee says it's forward. The referee says that forward from Jason Ramshaw to, at least I think from Jason Ramshaw, certainly to Martin Wood, was forward. It was a difficult position for Mr. Kershaw to judge because there was a melee of players between him and the ball. But he obviously thought it went forward, and he's the man with the whistle as Brad Heppy comes out of that base of the scrum with the ball. I call him happy. I'm sure he's not happy this afternoon, isn't Heppy? Ball lost there as he went to put the ball down, and certainly disgust there on Martin Oglamby's in his mind, and demonstrated by the way in which he threw that ball down. He knew he lost it, and Mr. Kershaw saw him do it. So once more then an error by Workington, allowing Keighley to take advantage, and that's rather a silly mistake by Workington, caught handing the ball out in the scrum, the not being able to take it. Now I would have thought perhaps we might have been looking for 2 points here, but it's Steve Hall looking to drive the ball to that line and set up another try scoring opportunity for Keighley. Ramshaw then on to Hiley. Look to switch the ball back inside. There's nobody there. There's 3 Workington Town players round him. Unable to get up quickly and get the ball back into play again as Ramshaw goes on his own on the inside. But I think Workington at long last have wakened up to the tactics of Jason Ramshaw going on his own from acting half. And again it's another attempt to bore through. And again Ramshaw tries to go on his own. Well, there's 3 tackles being used up there. In fact, the referee says that Jason Ramshaw had a double movement there. In fact, it looks as though Jason Ramshaw was injured in his attempt to bore underneath those tacklers. And whilst the referee was in a better position to have judged than we are, I wouldn't be at all surprised had that ball not spilled out of his hands and looked in fact as though it had been an attempted double move. Replacement again for Workington Town. Schubert being taken off and Peter Riley coming back on. And certainly the shoulder just being held there by Jason Ramshaw, somewhat tender after trying to drive through there. And Workington then with that pressure relieving penalty. The weather starting to close in now as the rain starts to come down, with about 10 minutes left in this second half. And the weather closing down. Remember, it's coming into the face of Keighley, but certainly there's 21 points on the board in their favour, and Workington up to now anyway still on the whitewash line. Dean Marwood there doing extremely well to recover that ball out of the air. Ian Gately suggests that the ball being lost, and the ball had been lost. Looks as though in fact Dean Marwood having the wind knocked out of him slightly there. No, it's the arm that he's holding, but Johnny Kershaw penalising Keighley for not allowing the man to get up. So it's a penalty then to Workington Town. The ball going deeper into Keighley territory, some 25 metres out from the Keighley try line. Riley, the man just returned to the action, gets 10 metres from the line as Ogilvie gets up and plays the ball. Pickering, he can't get away from the grasp of Ramshaw and the cover tackle up top as Tony Kay now looks for the line. About 1.5 metres from the Keighley line as the ball goes across field. Marwood gets it onto Carter. Carter hesitates there. I thought for a minute as though he was going to go for a drop goal, but surely not with the scoreline as it is. Marwood out to the far touchline side. It's Ken Rice, gets the ball out to the wing, but the wingman steps in touch, does he? Yes, says the touch judge, and Keighley can breathe again as the wingman stepped into touch there, or tackled it into touch, but touched the corner flag rather, as he was attempting to put the ball down. And that's certainly the decision judged by how the play's been restarted with that tap on the 20-metre line. Ramshaw then, Greg Hiley settling things down. Ramshaw again, brings on Brooke Cowden. The rain starts to get heavier now, and looks as though in fact there's some hail mixed in with it as the ball switched back inside from Jason Ramshaw to Mark Brooke Cowden. 7 or 8 metres inside the Workington half of the field. Onto Appleby. Appleby looks to go to his right and then comes left, pushes off the first tackle and gets it off to Brooke Cowden, but he's tackled deep into Workington Town territory as Dixon chips the ball forward. Unfortunately, I think possibly it was for the chase, but John Basileau in front of the kicker in an offside position. He knew exactly what he'd done as soon as he touched the ball, and so then it's a pressure relieving penalty kick once more for Workington Town, some 5 metres inside their own half of the field, as Pickering drives the ball in. On then to Marwood. Rooney spills the ball. It's a knock-on, says the referee. Suspect now there's 1 or 2 cold fingers out there, certainly on the Workington Town side, because as far as they're concerned, they've got nothing to keep the blood warm. Still with that 0 scoreline against their name. 21 points though to Keighley. The result looking more and more positive now as far as Keighley are concerned, as Stevenson drives into the face of the wind and the rain and the snow, and certainly the elements doing all they can to try to slow down Keighley, because certainly Workington Town have not been able to slow them down in this game. The rain now driving into our position up here, and possibly could be having 1 or 2 difficult problems with the camera and the pictures that we're bringing to you, but hopefully we'll be able to complete the game without too many problems. Heppy then at long last taking on the defence as far as Workington are concerned, but spills the ball out there, more in hope of getting somebody in support. The ball going back there, unable to be regathered by his colleague, and in fact we go down to scrum as the heavens open. You see on the picture there, it's coming down almost in straight lines like stair rods at the moment. There's hail there, there's snow there, and there's rain as well. Keith Dixon just inside the inside the Keighley half of the field. Hall goes on his own from acting half-back. Probably here in the background the hail hitting the roof of our position here. There's Greg Hiley. Just tries to keep this ball under control, because under conditions like this, control is about the only thing he can have. Very much a case of the ball being stuffed up the jumper now, and hoping that Keighley can hang on to possession and keeping Workington penned down deep in their own half of the field. Picture's getting somewhat difficult now as the light closes down. These lights up here. Oh, and that was almost a try for Keighley. Martin Wood again, the man just beaten to the touch there by Paul Bond, and a very, very good chip through there by Keighley. I don't think for sure, in fact for sure, Workington weren't expecting that, and it was difficult for us to see from up here precisely what had happened, but it was a good chip through and a good chase. Paul Bond just managing to get the touch, as the weather now comes down even harder still. Ball possibly knocked. The hail now hits the roof. In fact, referee Kershaw allowing play to go on there. Looked as though there might have been a knock-on by Keighley. And this weather coming straight at us here now, getting absolutely wet through up here, almost as wet as the players on the field. We're finding it difficult to concentrate on the picture, on the play.
Well, see how the weather's taking a turn for the worse. It's got to be the easiest day of the whole time, I think. It really is pathetic.
And again, some mishandling there. And in fact, it's a penalty attempt, I think, by, it is indeed the referee's white shirt arms there, just able to see them through the gloom, pointing to the posts. John Basileau being asked to come up and use up valuable seconds. The weather eases slightly, but it's coming more towards us, not quite as consistently heavy as it was, although you can just think, I see from the pictures there, how bad in fact it is. Maybe just having to make 1 or 2 readjustments to the camera whilst In fact, the weather has in fact now got to the camera. We're just having to try and keep the clean the lens whilst John Vasilou sets himself up for this conversion attempt. Very difficult to see even by the naked eye. Hopefully when we get the camera back in action, we may well be able to see. There we go again. You could see the snow in the floodlight pylons as somebody on the floor holds the ball steady for John Vasilou. It hits the post in fact. Now where's Sniffer Moses? Moses, of course, the man who relishes on situations like that, but the ball in fact being stripped out of the tackle by a Keighley player there, giving Workington a penalty, and the clock just being stopped again as we once again temporarily lose a picture. I think perhaps we may just have to have a slight pause here while we get the camera sorted out, and hopefully we'll get everything back in order. There's only a couple of minutes or so on the clock. Just to remind you of the scorers for Keighley in the first half, it was Carlton Farrell, 2.5 minutes into the game. Martin Wood got the second try 20 minutes in with the conversion attempt by John Vasilou, successful on this occasion. We then saw a drop goal by Jason Ramshaw, and just before the final whistle, the half-time whistle, Steve Hall barged his way forward through the woeful tackling of the Workington defence from about 15 metres out. And again, John Vasilou being successful with a conversion. It was 17 points to 0 then at half-time. And again, into the second half, Keighley on the ascendancy once more, keeping this Workington Town side at bay. Any attempts they had to get into Keighley territory being foiled by some superb tackling by the Keighley forwards and the backs for that matter. And then into the second half we saw a break by Darren Appleby from the base of the scrum. He found a gap between the defence. Darren Carter certainly being one of the people to blame for that gap. Appleby went through the hole, he sped downfield, came across to this near side from where we're commentating from, found John Vasilou in the open. John Vasilou went for the line, he scored to take the score to the current position of 21 points to 0 in favour of Keighley. And really I think who would have thought that Keighley would have come all this way up here to Workington on an atrocious day in very, very difficult playing conditions indeed, and not only coming away with a victory but coming away in fact with a double as well and a 0 point line against them. Absolutely fantastic as far as Keighley are concerned, and I'm sure there'll be some very, very happy players in that dressing room after this game finishes, and 1 or 2 beers drunk on the way home as well. Hopefully then now we're going to be able to bring the pictures back, although we appear to have lost it absolutely completely now. But there we are, there's the picture back for us as we see Keighley, just a little bit of difference there between a couple of players, but it's a penalty then to Keighley, some 10 metres out from the Workington line. And now we're going to see John Vasilou again called into action to use up the valuable time. Just short of 40 minutes on the watch now then. We have a bit of stoppage time as Keith Dixon puts that ball safely into touch. 10 yards out then from the line as Ramshaw gets Greg Hiley into the action once more. He goes on, looks for the try line, but successfully brought down there by the Workington Town defenders. Ramshaw going on his own, he's spotted a hole there. There was a momentary lapse again in that Workington defence, and it's played, and in fact well, it looks as though Jerry Kershaw there has penalised Keighley for, I would suspect, not playing the ball when he should have done. He certainly didn't play the ball, and probably having been penalised there for deliberately wasting time and dummying to play the ball. As it is then, the play back towards the halfway line. Workington Town in the invidious position of trying to get points on the board, but almost a forlorn task, I feel now, as we're in stoppage time which the timekeepers will be adding on for the 1 or 2 stoppages that we had, specifically the one where we had the little bit of a fracas which resulted in Wayne Race being dismissed from the field, and standoff Darren Carter getting the 10 minutes in the bin. Oglenby then gets the ball away to Schubert. I didn't see him return to the action. It must have been in the dark and dim period when he came back, as Oglenby again onto Peter Riley. The ground's starting to get extremely heavy now then, as Workington looked to get away there, but Mark Brook-Cowden it was, just stuck out an arm, broke down that movement once more for Workington Town, and that's been the pattern of things the whole of this afternoon. Brilliant tackling by Keighley, good defensive work, and some rather abysmal play by Workington, to say the least. That look forward from Carter to Kay, and the ball actually being spilled in the tackle, regathered by Keighley. Keith Dixon acting half-back, gets onto Steve Hall. Steve Hall drives the ball in nice and slowly and steadily, going towards the halfway line as he does. And there goes a full-time hooter. Steve Hall throws the ball in the air. Celebrations all round. Carlton Farrell there absolutely delighted, as are all the other 14 Keighley players. Looks as though they're going to come across to the support that's travelled up here from Keighley this afternoon. Carlton Farrell showing his appreciation to those Keighley fans who have made this long journey up here to Derwent Park, and what a worthwhile trip it's been for them. They've certainly enjoyed, as we have, an exceptionally good game here by Keighley. Atrocious weather conditions in the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes of the game, but by that time it was all over and done with. As we said, halfway through the second half, that brilliant break by Darren Appleby, putting the nail in the coffin as far as Workington were concerned, giving Keighley the 2 points, and what I suppose can also be considered as 4 points. Coming up here, taking 2 points from the opposition away from home. Brilliant display by Keighley, and that will be some very, very happy